Is your team not performing well? Is morale low and turnover high? Are you falling further behind the competition? I'm here to help. I'm your host, Shani, and this is the Leadership Show, where business strategy and culture finally meet, and we make the long-awaited shift from rhetoric to results. I promise I'm not your typical boring leadership consultant, and I will help you get your shift together. Let's do this. Hello, Leadershifters. Shani here. Today it is time to throw up your U because we are talking all things University of Miami with my guest, Dave Scott. Dave, say hello to the Leadershifter universe.
Hey, hello, everybody.
So Dave and I go way back to my days at the University of Miami when I was a cheerleader, and then I helped Dave on the recruiting side. So quick bio on Dave. He was the first recruiting coordinator for the baseball team at the University of Miami. Did that for a bunch of years, working under Coach Ron Frazier, a legend. And then he stepped into the recruiting coordinator role for the football team, succeeding another big name, Butch Davis, and he did that for a long time. And so I can't imagine anybody doubts how interesting this is going to be to talk about the culture of the University of Miami football team back in the day when we did nothing but dominate. We did not lose a home football game the entire 4 years I was in school, and Dave was a huge part of bringing the talent on board for that. So, Dave, welcome to the Leadership Show.
I'm glad to be here.
It's so great to have stayed connected all of these years, and can't wait to hear about not only some of the wonderful things that you can share with us from your days at the University of Miami, but things that you've done subsequently as director of the Miami Marathon and an athletic director at Florida International University. I love that you've just kept up as almost like the mayor of Miami, all the cool things that you've done in Dade County. So give us a quick walk through the early part of your resume when you got to UM and sort of the baseball and transition into football.
All right. I think before I get into that,
Yeah.
I've got a story that I tell to just about every intern that I supervise here at FIU and prior to this at the Marathon and even at the University of Miami, because I think it's very unique. It's very special. So I was a member of the first graduating class of FIU. I played on the first baseball team of FIU.
Wow.
And I wanted, in the worst way, to be a college baseball coach, and that was my aspiration. And I sort of did an internship for student teaching up at North Miami Beach High School, and the coach gave me great opportunity to coach. He says, "Look, I've been doing this a number of years. I'm kind of tired. I'm going to let you do the practices. I'll let you install anything that you want. I'll let you coach the team, basically." And so I took advantage of that and got experience. But I remember a professor that I had here at FIU. His name was Doit Perry.
Okay.
Doit Perry came from the cradle of coaches, the Mid-American Conference. So he coached at Bowling Green University. He coached against Ara Parsegan. He coached against Bo Schembechler. He coached against Woody Hayes. Younger, people may not remember those names, but they are legends of their day back in time.
Absolutely.
And
Anyone who knows college football knows those names.
Right. So Coach Perry, he said, "Gentlemen," because it was mostly a coaching philosophy class, and I don't think we had too many female students in the class. So he just said, "Gentlemen, I want you to have your antenna up. You're going to notice people in your career that have something unique about themselves. They're dynamic, and they set themselves apart. And if you see that individual, go stand next to them."
Mm.
So I kind of took that to heart, and I still, like I said, I still tell this story every single time. I've got 10 interns this semester working for me. So 10 people have heard this story, and 8 people in the spring, and going back over many, many years have heard this story because I've lived it, and I've been very fortunate. So while I was teaching, doing my student internship at the high school, I had the chance to observe the football coach at the school, former Kane quarterback, Fred Bertani, who was the backup to George Myra.
Okay.
So Hurricane War. Well, Fred was very dynamic, and he had the respect of all the students. I mean, he could go up to the surfer dude, he could talk to the tennis player, he could talk to the thespian, he could talk to just a regular student, and everybody respected Coach Bertani. And I'm a very young 22-year-old aspiring coach, and my antenna was up. And I thought, there's maybe I could learn something from Coach Bertani. I don't know what it is, but he has something unique. And as Dwight Perry said, he had the it factor.
Okay.
So I approached him and I said, Coach, spring practice is coming up in another week, and I just wondered if maybe I could come out and watch practice and maybe hold somebody's clipboard for him. All right. So he says, okay, sure. Well, I have a meeting tomorrow. Why don't you come to the meeting tomorrow? So I go in the meeting, sit down with all the coaches and everything, and he starts off, okay, we're going to make a couple changes here for spring ball, and Stevens, you're going to now coach defensive line. Turchetta, your offensive line. Baldini, you've got the secondary. And Scott, you've got linebackers. And I went, Scott, linebacker. And I looked around and I said, there's nobody in here with the first name of Scott. And I'm the only one in here with the last name of Scott. I had not played football since 9th grade. I was a baseball guy.
Yep.
But I was thrust into the position to coach linebackers at North Miami Beach High School during spring practice. And so I went about that, had another quarterback that was my directing teacher, David Teal.
Okay.
You don't know his names probably, but your dad would. So anyway, I was surrounded by a lot of people, ironically. And so he showed me what to do in coaching linebackers and was, looking over my shoulder the whole time. At the end of spring practice, Coach Bertani called me and he says, Dave, I really like what you did during the spring, and I want to offer you a coaching position in August. I want you to coach for me.
Nice.
And there was a hiring freeze in Dade County. The only way you can get a teaching position is to be able to teach math or science. Well, I had neither. But I was working on my master's in health education, and so through good fortune, Coach Bertani was able to have influence over the principal, and I got hired knowing that I was going to get my degree. The science portion could be met by the health degree. And so I got my first coaching and teaching position at North Miami Beach High School. I coached football and baseball for 3 years there. And but that's it. I mean, I identified somebody that was unique, and Coach Bertani definitely was.
Yeah.
And from that, I learned so much. And
can I just interrupt 1 second? Random fact about North Miami Beach High School. That's where Sheryl Sandberg went.
There you go.
Not sports related, but certainly leadership related.
Okay, good. Excellent. So, all right. So during that time, then I started coaching a summer college baseball team. And at the second year, I had players from the University of Miami on it. And Skip Bertman was the assistant head coach. He came out and watched the game. And so at the end of it, we talked a little bit. And next week, I get a letter from him saying, Dave, I really enjoyed meeting with you. The players seem to be enjoying playing for you this summer. Best of luck the rest of the season. Coach Frazier's on vacation right now, but when he returns, we'd like you to come down and talk to us because we're looking to hire another assistant coach. So I did that, and I couldn't believe it. In my own backyard, I was going to get a chance to be at the University of Miami. And I took that opportunity. Yep, still there. So I took that opportunity, and so I ended up working with Coach Frazier, Skip Bertman, and was the first recruiting coordinator in college baseball history. Did that for 7 years. We won 2 national championships. The first national championship for the University of Miami in 1982, repeated it in 85. And then in 87, I changed careers, went back to football, became the recruiting coordinator for Jimmy Johnson. And with that, won national championships in 87, 89, 91, 2001, 2002. Oh, no, sorry. Ohio State's wearing that ring.
Yeah.
That's by default. It's by default.
Totally. If we only had the replay rule, they would have turned that call back, and we would have had. I claim credit for that year as well.
but a very, very blessed career to be at the University of Miami during times working for some fantastic people. And so I was blessed. I can't say any more than that. The culture that was there, Howard Schnellenberger created something in football. Ron Frazier definitely had it in baseball. Jimmy Johnson took it to yet another level. Got a lot of excitement going for the community.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I really wanted to go next was, you said important, the lesson you learned early in your career, important to stand beside true leaders, people you can learn from. Can't wait to hear some of the best takeaways that you learned from guys like Ron Frazier and Jimmy Johnson. And let's start with JJ, because I think he's one of the most iconic coaches of like the past, multiple decades, both in college and pro football. In fact, one of the few college coaches who really made a great career for himself in pro football. What was it like to work on his staff, and what was the secret sauce to the success back then?
Coach Johnson was driven. All right. His mantra was to be the best. All right. No matter what it is, be the best. And he would say, I can remember some locker room speeches and some other team meeting speeches to where he says, look, not all of us are going to be in the NFL. Not all of us are going to be highly professional individuals, but you could be, you may be the janitor, but be the best janitor that you could be. I don't think he maybe downplayed so much on that, but I'm just saying, in all walks of life, whatever your path is, strive to be the best.
Yep.
And so it just oozed out of him. And he dressed that way. I mean, he was a rare football coach that looked great in those, 3-piece suits and suits now today. And you see him on Fox. I mean, the guy's still looking good.
Yep. No hair out of place.
But he carried that image with him. And it was just, and so all the coaches that were around, the staff members, we just all fell into that. And we all wanted to be the best. And we wanted to be the best for Coach Johnson. And it's just one of those things that, being in sports, I mean, this is, there's a lot of great leaders out there in the business field. But, my career has been in sports and being with the best leaders that you could have, either in baseball to football and even at the administrative level. A gentleman like Sam Jankovic, who was driven, who built the University of Miami up athletic program.
Yep.
So we didn't have that much.
I use sports analogies in the business world all the time. In fact, one of my favorite analogies is about coaching, because in the corporate world, a lot of times coaching has a negative connotation, like it's someone's a great leader, so let's get him or her some coaching, and it's almost considered to be like a punishment or a remedial thing, and it blows my mind. I'm like, no, I mean, sure, deal with performance problems and try and get people to be better, but everybody should have a coach. The best performers should have coaches. I say to these leaders, only coaching the problem performers or the lowest end performers is like a football coach only coaching the bench warmers. Like it's silly. I'm like, so of course you got to spend time developing your first string. So yeah, I think sports and business are so much alike.
I coach every single day. I'm not a coach anymore. I'm an administrator, but I do coach every single day. When this past week, I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, responsible for the football travel here at FIU. So I was up there, and the day before the team arrived, I was meeting with the hotel staff, and I was giving them the little nuggets of what was special about FIU football, what was special about Coach Butch Davis, and just giving them direction about how I wanted the weekend to go with our meals and meetings and check-in process, et cetera. But I was giving them all the things. I gave them diagrams. I went through the timeline and I just said, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And this may not happen, but we're going to be prepared for it. And go through those things. So I coached them, and I felt like I coached them up and got them to be part of my team, because even though it was the Hilton brand that particular weekend, they were with FIU.
Yep. And you set the venue up for success to partner with you.
Yeah.
For a way that
works. I was trying to coach them up to be on my side, and not so much the director of catering, but that banquet captain, the server, because sometimes it's those people in the course of a business that really hold it all together.
Absolutely. Every little detail matters. So do you have a favorite recruiting story from the University of Miami football era?
Favorite recruiting? Man, they're all so special. They're all so special. I mean, gosh, to single one out, that really, you're making it tough, because I got to encourage so many outstanding young men to come to the University of Miami and get them to make that decision, wanting them to make the decision on their own part, not because I twisted their arm, not because I painted a bright picture for them, but instead just as realistic and down to earth as I could be. And I think that was probably my virtue as a recruiter, that I wasn't going to oversell the program. I wasn't going to oversell them. In fact, back in those days, I would say, you're probably not going to play as a freshman. The teams were so talented back then. You're not going to play, but you're going to get better. And the next year you'll play a little bit more, and then you'll go through those processes.
So you realistically manage expectations.
Right. So, okay. Trying to put them in the right place, and then to be with someone like Jimmy Johnson, who was a great assessor of talent. And so at times, it was sometimes just Coach Johnson and I in the recruiting room, and he would look at the board and he would take a name down and he'd go like, well, he's a wide receiver, but he's going to be a defensive back. And he'd slide it over. And they go, I know we're recruiting the defensive line, but he's going to be an offensive lineman. And I know we're recruiting him as a linebacker, but he's going to be a defensive end. And he would make those changes. And we're going to recruit this young man. He doesn't really have a position. He's going to be an athlete. And he's going to fit in with our team. He's going to be something. He will have a real instrumental part in the success of our team. He may be a punt return, kick return specialist, but he's going to be key. And you know what? He nailed it. And he was amazing. He says, yeah, we're not going to get this guy. How do you know? Well, he just had that knack of knowing. And
okay.
Gosh,
so I'm hearing, again, I always want to tie this back to business, which is recognize talent and don't get stuck in the label of what they are when they come to you. Yeah. And here's them more broadly.
Yeah, here's something from Coach Johnson. I think that we could probably spin this into the business world, because again, I hire interns. Okay, so I get to select those young people that are going to be around me for 4 or 5 months, and I look for enthusiasm. I'm looking for someone that has that spark. Maybe there's creativity, desire. So I see some of those things, even just in a casual conversation. I feel like I can see that. But Coach Johnson, he wanted to know how tall an athlete was,
okay,
how fast they were,
okay,
how smart they were,
okay,
and do they play another sport, and how were they a competitor? So sometimes that competitor took over and went beyond the speed factor, went by the height factor, or something like that. And so it just was the competitiveness.
Yeah.
Do they want to win?
They have the grit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like who do you think of when you think of that grit and just that raw talent?
Well, you can't, Shanny, you look at those rosters, you can't find people that weren't champions.
Yeah.
The names are just too much. So sorry to make this too much a University of Miami thing. But right now, here at FIU, Coach Davis is doing it here like he did at Miami. He's building and creating a culture with organization, attention to detail, striving to be the best, the same things that he was mentored by Jimmy Johnson as a young coach.
Right.
He's doing the same things here, and we're seeing the success.
Absolutely.
And surrounding ourselves with good character, people that want to compete.
Yep. So important. Did you ever count the number of players that you recruited that made it into the NFL?
No, you know what? I haven't had time to do that. No.
Right, right.
Yeah,
It
no.
would be dozens and dozens.
There's a good number. And just this weekend, when we were up in Charlotte, one of the young men that I recruited out of Pittsburgh now lives in Charlotte. He came over. He was an offensive lineman, and he ended up being the center for 3 years at Miami. Terrell Green,
Okay.
and so he came down to the hotel, got a chance to see me, and just here he is. I mean, he's 40 something years old now, and he's coaching, and just great to see a young man like that and to see the change in him that he's had. I mean, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. You want to throw a
Yeah.
name out? I mean, I can name drop some things, but I mean, it's not necessary, really. I mean, just all those teams that I was a part of and had a chance to be around and convince and assure they were making the right decision to come to the University of Miami. They're all champions. They're
Right.
champions. Not only were they champions in their playing days, but they're champions in life now. Many of them are.
100%. 100%. So talk to us a little bit about the shift from out of college sports and into the marathon, because I think
Ooh.
that's super interesting.
Well,
And the lessons that you learned under Coach Johnson and some of the other great
okay.
leaders that you worked in, like what did you take with you to the marathon and please don't be shy in telling us your achievements there.
Well, I think on things there, it wasn't necessarily by design. It wasn't necessarily my wish to leave the University of Miami. I was there 29 years,
Oh,
and I thought I was seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but that light got dimmer for me too soon in my own mind. But with that, the opportunity to be a race director was something I never had in the back of my mind. All right, I wasn't sure that my career would be something in that area, though I was an avid runner.
mm-hmm.
And I knew about little 5Ks and 10Ks and half marathons, but didn't know all the intricacies. And when the opportunity came and I met with the owners and they said, we'd like to offer this job, and I took it and I threw myself into it just as much as I did when I made the shift from baseball into football. Then I did the same thing in the marathon. I tried to reach out to others to learn from them.
Yep.
I called up other race directors. I met as many people as I could. I traveled the country, went to other marathons and observed what they did and stole those ideas and brought them back to Miami. Was with a great group of young people. By far, my senior status on that staff was probably double their age of things, but I was there, and with it, we went from 15,000 runners to 18,000 to 21,000 and to two back-to-back sellouts of 25,000 each. And the growth of that race and the company was tremendous. I felt very instrumental in part of that. I hired a lot of people to come in and work. And so from that, again, take great pride that even today, the local director is somebody that I hired back when I first started. And so that person come along and fill in my shoes and do even more.
Yep.
And so on that, so I brought with me college athletics and the experience that I had there, running a stadium as I did for the Orange Bowl Stadium.
May it rest in peace.
Okay. It's sad. But we're going to, FIU is going to play the University of Miami next year. Maybe it'll be at Marlins Park on the sacred grounds of the Orange Bowl.
Oh, that would be nice.
We'll see what happens.
Okay.
But, so on this, going into this world, it was a time of growth in the running industry. So it was a very timely take on things. And so bringing some things in was very good to the race that I had, just little things that came about, again, of having people work for you that are motivated, that are enthusiastic. And I think some of it, maybe filters down. And that's one of the other things that I'd like to say, that your own enthusiasm, your own enjoyment of your job. And I don't think that I have a job. I don't know that I've had a job. People no. I get up every morning. There's not one like, oh, I got to go to work today. It's just not in me. But I've been unique. It's been unique for me. It's been special that I've been able to put myself in the right position. And the man upstairs taking care of me, I think.
Yeah. And so how long were you there before you went to FIU?
So 4.5 years.
Okay.
4.5 years, and company was going to be sold, so it was probably maybe a timely move there, and so the opportunity came here. Here's a story for you. So in 1991, I hired a young man to be my part-time assistant in recruiting at FIU, at rather.
Okay.
And so he did well. Next year, I made him full-time. In the third year, I said, you know what? You're ready to be the recruiting coordinator. I'm going to step aside. I'm just going to be assistant AD for football. So that young man's name was Pete Garcia.
Oh, wow.
So Pete is my boss today. So I will tell everybody listening, treat your people right. Maybe someday they'll give you a job. All right.
That's right.
So, but again, so there is a lot of ties. There's a number of former Canes that work here at FIU. It's a unique bond of people. We're creating our own culture here at FIU. We're Panthers. We got paws up. We don't necessarily have the U. We got the paws up.
Love that.
Right? But we're making things happen. FIU is the fourth largest university in the nation.
Is it really?
Yes.
Did not know that.
Quietly has done that. And so, you know, it's amazing. There's more alumni in the Dade, Broward, Palm Beach community here for FIU than there is University of Miami. Someday, this program will be really something to look at. And I've always envisioned it, even way back, even when I was at the U, I envisioned that there would be a rivalry here that would be second to only maybe the USC, UCLA rivalries. That this would be that kind of inner city type contest.
Yeah. I feel like there's a real camaraderie between UM and FIU just in general, both as representing Miami, the city, with fine universities. And like even earlier this year when we played you guys, there was a fundraiser. Like we were sort of competing to see who could raise more money for the they were reaching out to alumni, let's have a competition who can do more fundraising before the football game, and which is ultimately a good thing. So I hope I agree. I think it would be really neat to have that hometown rivalry, but with more respect. Like UCLA and USC, like they hate each other. So it's more like a Florida State thing. Yeah. But I don't know. Like I sure, when Miami plays FIU, I want us to beat you, and I'm guessing that's where your loyalty is now. But other than that, like I think people in Miami just love that the city has two phenomenal universities.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm proud that I've had a part of both and some type of legacy either side.
Yeah, and so still being part of college football, there's a whole bunch of coaches that have proliferated around from your days at Miami football who were your colleagues then and probably now sort of your competitors. Are they mostly in the SEC, or because I'm just thinking.
Well, of course, Tommy Tuberville was at Cincinnati. I think was maybe his last stop.
Okay.
But he had been at Auburn and been at Texas Tech, I guess it was, Texas A&M too. So he's
Ole Miss
a little bit and Ole Miss, and then and of course Ed Ogeron right now. Look at what he's doing now for LSU. That's amazing. So no, it's a good number. They're all out there. Dan Werner's helping out. Nick Saban at Alabama, I think, and they're just all out there.
Yep. Do you guys keep in touch for a lot of the coaching staff from back in the day?
From time to time, but some of the things we've been very fortunate in Miami to have a good number of reunions. So with that, they've had a tremendous return to campus, and then so you get a chance to go see some of those players at that time.
Yep. I've seen a bunch of the players at various football games when they're doing, the 20th anniversary of this national championship and the next national championship. It's so great. It's this unshakable connection. Even after all of these years, we were so lucky to have an experience like none other. And people can only begin to relate to it by watching ESPN 30 for 30 if they weren't there.
Right. And those are very true stories. Both versions are there. They could have tainted the university worse. They also could have painted it even better, because again, as much as there was a lot of truths, okay, a lot of truths and detail there, but those years were very remarkable for our community, because there was a time that even the Dolphins weren't so noted, and the players at Miami gave the community something to get behind.
Yep.
And so since that time, of course, the Heat's had its success. Marlins every 10 years seems to pull something out and be there. But no, I mean, University of Miami football was certainly something that pulled this community together when it had some rough times. There was a lot of things, the Mariel boat lift to some of the Overtown issues that we had, but there was a rally point, and those young men in those times, the Alonzo Highsmith, the Melvin Brattons. I mean, those guys there did a lot, for pulling and getting people excited and unified.
Absolutely. After I just said the thing about 30 for 30, it prompted a question in my mind. Was after the Penn State Army fatigue thing, where we lost the national championship in 1986, how did Coach Johnson and the coaching staff handle that when you guys got back to the locker room after we lost and subsequently?
Okay. Well, I wasn't part of football in 86.
Okay.
So I'm still in baseball, but I came at the end of that summer, so 87. So I missed whatever his approach was for spring practice, the training and things like that. But he, so I jumped in when we started 2-a-day practices, basically when I started work and football. And he just, we've lost a Heisman Trophy winner. We've lost half a dozen guys that were first round draft picks, but there's still a strong nucleus. So you got a Steve Walsh, you've got these guys that can take us to that championship game again. And he just kept methodically chipping away at them and doing what was necessary, and didn't let them look too far ahead, and methodically got there. And his vilification was chance to beat Barry Switzer. And after he had those times when he was at Oklahoma State being beaten there, he was able to turn it against him. And
yeah.
So he had his championship, and then it continued. Should have probably won in 88, except for a misplayed again. We'd had replay. 88, the mystery fumble, whatever, and that should have been a first down for Miami against Notre Dame. Had that one, we probably would have won that one. Had he stayed, he would have won 89. But you bring in Dennis Erickson. He brings in his staff, and in a very rare sense there, he comes in and his staff, with a few carryover coaches, wins the national championship in 89.
Yep.
Does it again in 91, competes the 92 season, competes again in 94. I mean, his stretch of years that was there and competing, phenomenal. Then Butch comes in, and he brings it back. Yep. And he starts building again from within, local players, focuses more on the Florida athletes, and again creates that culture of we're gonna be the best that we can be. We're gonna have great attention to detail. We're gonna be organized. We're gonna plan for the unforeseen, because we're gonna see it ahead of time. And when it does happen, we'll know what to do.
Yep.
And so he built that up, and just again finding those young men with character that had competitiveness about themselves. And next thing you know, here you've got 2000, 2001, 2002. I think one of the proud things that I had in my career is that the part of the team that I was around the most is that the young men that played in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, no football team and no athlete will ever be able to say that again, because now you get the playoffs. But that team, that freshman class that came through,
yep.
They played in the most important football, bowl games of the time. So going from the Sugar Bowl to the Rose Bowl to the Orange Bowl to the Fiesta Bowl, Orange Bowl. All right, do that in a rotation. Nobody can say they did that.
Yeah.
No one did it before, and no one will ever say it afterwards.
That team, the 01-02 era team was arguably the best collection of college football players ever on any team to date.
Hands down.
I mean, unbelievable. It's so cool to look. And some of those guys are still playing in the NFL. Well, this has been so fun to walk down memory lane. Are there any parting words you would like to leave with leader shifters in terms of sports analogy or experiences?
Well, I guess and I say this again to my young people that I'm with. Don't settle just on that one goal. You may have a side path that you're gonna take, and I look for gaining experience. I look to go and find those people that have the it factor.
Okay.
Go stand next to them. Something's good's going to happen. It'll fall out on you. Osmosis is going to occur. You're going to develop, and you're going to pick up skills. You'll pick up. And so, how did I become a race director? Well, gosh, it was from my administrative world. It was my coaching world, because you're still coaching athletes out there. You're still putting on an event.
Yep.
Athletes performing. And so, whereas there was 80,000 people watching, 150 athletes on a football field, now you got 50,000 spectators watching 25,000 athletes run through a community that's not just in 3 or 4 blocks square, but instead 26.2 miles long.
Right.
Do those things.
Absolutely. Well, Leader Shifters, Dave is a shining example of talent management at its best, from recruiting and developing athletes and surrounding yourselves with the staff to be able to have that winning culture. And I think there's some really great lessons that we can take away from the conversation today in our organizations, even though we're not all don't have the luxury of being involved in football full-time for our careers. But who are the leaders you want to stand by, right? Everyone's got to have role models and mentors, and we need to constantly be seeking those out in every phase of our career. Even CEOs should still be looking to better their own leadership. And in terms of talent, are you hiring people with that it factor, who don't just have the pedigree and the resume, but they have the smarts and they have the competitiveness and the grit, so that you can be flexible with the role that you put them to play on the field, right? So let's not get caught up by the labels and exactly what someone did on the resume. If they are strong and capable and constant learners, there's a variety of positions that they can play on the field of your organization. So really great lessons that we learned, as well as, of course, I beam whenever I talk about University of Miami football. So this is such a huge pleasure for me to be able to talk football and business all in one conversation. So Dave, thank you so much for being on the show today, and good luck with the rest of your football season. And we'll have to catch up at the game next year.
That's right. It'll be our home game.
All Miami's home for all of us, but yes, technically it'll be your home game. So Leader Shifters, thanks for joining us today. Until next time, you know how to reach me. hello@theleadershipproject.com or on any of our social media. And please feel free to suggest guests or topics that you'd like to hear about. Always open to fabulous ideas. Thank you. And until next time, mwah.